This is the second studio hosted by the Architecture and Design Office fame. My name is David Lee. With me is Marina Bordeaux. The two of us are architects, partners at the office, and of course, hosts of the show.
Isn't it weird?
And we're doing a pivot because our guest today, and they forgot that we're recording, I think. And so
This is the fifth time we're starting this recording.
This is the fifth iteration of the introduction. Not that you could tell, because it didn't sound like it doesn't
sound better.
Did it sound natural? Did it sound like it was the first time that we were doing this?
Who would know?
I'm working on my acting skills. I'd be an actor. So today we are going to talk about, this is the part 2 of our Copenhagen trip.
It is.
You'd think that I've done this intro 5 times that I know what I was going to say next, but I don't still. Part 1, which came out a few months ago, it was about the personal anecdotes of our trip, right? The food, the culture, the experience, the smørrebrød, the shrimp on a bread with butter.
Shrimp on a bread. I'm so hungry right now, you can talk about food.
And so we had promised in that recording that we were going to do a part 2 about the architecture, and that's what we're doing now, months later, when we have no recollection of the trip at all, because it was back in December of last year. So we have our computers, we have some photographs, and we're going to look at photographs, and hopefully we'll have something to say.
I love how confident you are every time we do recording, just the two of us. It's like, well, I hope we're going to make it through the hour. We'll see.
Sponsors. Stop juggling multiple pieces of software and struggling with design-unfriendly spreadsheets. Programma, built by designers for designers, provides an integrated suite of tools for every phase of your project, from mood boards to advanced specification tools, procurement tracking to project management. Seamlessly integrated, easily shareable, and always current, Programma reduces redundancy and minimizes costly errors. Join InterDesign movers and shakers by starting for free at programma.design/second studio. Experience the difference with Programma, software built for InterDesign workflows. The second studio is brought to you by Chaos. They make award-winning design and visualization tools, and they're really pushing the boundaries with AI. As we all know, AI is shaking up the architecture and design world, and Chaos is taking a responsible approach. Their tools are built to help architects, designers, and visualization specialists work faster and explore more ideas without replacing creativity. Basically, Chaos wants AI to make your imagination stronger and not take over, so you get to design with more freedom, create stunning visuals, and stay in control of your work. If you want to see what that looks like, tap the Chaos link in our show notes.
Architects, design leaders, founders redefining the industry. If you want to shape not only buildings but the businesses behind them, this is your moment. Future London Academy's Executive MBA takes you inside the boardrooms of Pentagram, Uber, Zaha Hadid Architects, and Google, where you will master finance, strategy, and operations from the people who already excel at them. Study alongside peers, transforming the industry worldwide, and do it all in just 9 intensive weeks over 1 year between London and California. Award-winning, transformative, crafted for design and architecture leaders with 15 plus years of experience. If you're ready to grow your impact, apply now by tapping the Future London Academy link in our show notes.
This is the second studio with the two of us, as usual. Here we go.
So I know what you're going to say.
Yeah,
right, because we already did it 5 times. You were about to say that you saw a lot more architecture than I did during this trip, because you were so brave that you ventured on your own in a country that does not speak your language, that uses foreign currency, and you braved the cold to go explore more architecture. The thing
that's true.
The thing is, that is not the truth.
What are you talking about?
You probably got 45 minutes of being by yourself to look at architecture when no one from our group was around you.
Yeah.
And to add to that, you got to those architecture sites with the group. so really, you can tell David is a big adventurer out there.
We departed, right? I went forward to... We're jumping forward here, but yeah, we went to this area to see projects, and it was cold.
It was really cold.
It got like really, really cold. And so I decided to run forward to see if I could find a lunch spot. And I couldn't really find one. And then at that point, I was like a block and a half away from the projects that I wanted to see. And I was like, okay, it's obviously not working. Yeah. You guys go to find lunch somewhere.
And I was dealing with 4 grandparents and a baby, so I had to, cut my losses.
And so, yeah, so I saw a few things on my own. It was quite exciting because one of the projects was large and confusing. So when I got to the top of it, I had a moment where I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get back down. So that we can talk about wayfinding, I suppose. But kind of working through the project, working through we had a few client presentations this week. Talking through the project, the trip, I guess sort of chronologically. So we stayed in a part of Copenhagen that's not on the central island. But Copenhagen's so small that it doesn't really matter if you're more, quote, on the outskirts, because it takes 15 minutes to get to the center.
No.
So we stayed in a hotel, but we were part of really this like neighborhood that had mostly large apartment buildings. And what's fascinating of the areas that we saw, these are all new structures that were done, I don't know, but you could tell they were done in the last 20 years for sure, right? All of the buildings there, these apartment structures. And most of them were massive, like giant buildings. I don't know if I have photographs of the ones outside of ours, but they're like, what, 6-7 stories tall?
Outside of us, yeah, probably about...
Something around there?
Actually, maybe less stories. They're just really big.
5 stories? Whatever. But they're like, they feel like a full block in length, and they feel like they're a full block deep. I mean, obviously they're not that, but their presence is massive.
It's interesting because I think when we think about apartment living in the States, I think about New York, because that's my own personal experience. And therefore, the scale and footprint of those buildings are much more limited because of the urban density where, they exist, right? It's really tight fabric to build buildings. Yeah. So you're extremely confined between where you can be and how big you can be. I would say probably in most Europe, a lot of those buildings are much bigger, unless again you build in like a historical center of cities, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're again limited with what's around. But if you don't build in a historical center, you just kind of like extend the city, or like take over industrial areas, tear them down, and build new. Usually those buildings are pretty big. Yeah. And if you think about it, people who live in cities, I would say at least in Europe, not everywhere in the States. For example, in LA, people who live in LA, most of the people who live in LA live in houses. They don't really live in apartments, houses, right? Yeah. People who live in New York, most of them live in apartments. People who live in Paris or Copenhagen, most of them live in apartments as well. Yeah. So it does make sense that those apartment buildings would be big because there is tons of people to house.
Yeah, I mean, the area that we stayed at, again, because it wasn't central, it meant that there was space for massive development. Yeah. So you do these big block buildings. And it's definitely, as a like per square area of space and how many people you fit on there, doing a larger building is much more efficient than doing a bunch of microstructures, for the most part. But, yeah. And so that's what they did here. But there's something in this, headphones are annoying me. There's something like the scale of it. See, it's weird to me because obviously this was probably not one developer, although we don't know. If you were a developer and you had, or even the city, and you had this giant area of land there and someone was going to build a bunch of apartment buildings, my first instinct, if I were in charge of the design, would not be to create, massive structures. I'd be like, okay, let's create something that's human scale and create nice outdoor spaces for people to gather. All the kind of typical planning, community planning, space planning that you would have traditionally, because it works. And they did have a lot of outdoor space between these buildings, like little park areas and whatever. And we were there during the winter. It's fucking cold outside, so it was probably very different during the summer. But mainly I'm going to critique like the scale of the structures. I just didn't understand, like, did they have to be so massive? Like just a wall of building. Every return, like a wall of building.
The scale, they were like chunky.
Like you can look on top and there's going to be Jon Snow on top of this thing. It's like, what the fuck are we doing there? Yeah. We're keeping dragons out? What are we doing? Dragons.
But that is true. There is another thing with like kind of like more recent neighborhoods when they're built, with multifamily housing, is there is a sense that there is no soul. And the fact that we went during the winter also doesn't really help because it just makes everything feel like gray and sad and dead and all of that. But I could kind of see like because of the scale of the building, the fact that there is a bunch of open space around that is not super defined what it's for, right? I mean, open space is great to have, but it felt like a lot of leftover thing, or like kind of like an extension of the entry of the building, and then it stops there. And then there is extra of the entry of the other building, but it's not really addressed. And it's interesting because it makes me wonder, like, is it just because we went during the winter? Is it just because it's still fairly new? Is it because they actually don't really think about urban design, or like what to do with those interstitial spaces? There are many questions,
Yeah. I mean, look, I've said it many times before. The space and the area where most architects fail is the outdoor space, and it drives me nuts, and it drives landscape architects nuts, because it is arguably the most important part about creating a community is that negative space, the public space, the shared space.
Yeah, and I think it even shows even more when, let's say, you have 3-4 different developers on a giant lot that each do their own building. Like, again, who is the person and the trade that kind of like ties it all together, right?
I know.
That's the problem. It's like everyone wants to buy a piece of land, everybody wants to build their thing, but no one wants to spend the time or money to hire someone like a coordinator of neighborhoods,
right,
to make sure that things just kind of like gel together in a way.
Well, so like I was curious. So my preconceptions of Copenhagen, which were based on nothing at all, was I was eager to experience a city or a part of a city that had all new buildings, and all these buildings were probably built in the last 20 years or so, it would appear to be.
Oh, yeah,
and what does it feel like to be in them? I mean, in the spaces around them, because a lot of the most cherished cities and pockets of neighborhoods are old. You think of Paris, think of Barcelona, you think of San Francisco. I mean, it's new, but still, like, there's like the history. They're more historical, and I've always wondered, like, can we create a modern, environment with modern style looking structures and have it be like that? And that was my preconception of what I would experience. Different, because actually the center of Copenhagen is not that. It's a lot of old structures. Would make more sense to imagine. In this area, though, again, mostly residential, very few commercial businesses in this kind of neighborhood, probably none at all, really. And I have not ever been in a neighborhood that was made up of completely large, modern apartment buildings that felt as comfortable. And I don't know if it's because that means that's a commentary on the buildings themselves and limitations of a certain style, as clients would say, or if it's just because it hasn't been done right yet. We've talked about before, but it reminds me of the district of the NVA PPS, whatever, the school that you went to, the National Superior Val d'Seine.
Yeah.
It's all like modern structures, and it just doesn't feel right? I mean, yeah.
It just feels like something's missing. But if you think about like a similar neighborhood in an old neighborhood, right, it would not feel like that, because building would look homogeneous in styles, right? Or there would be different types of activities, not just residential. There would be shops and people and traffic, right? I think it's kind of the criticism of creating housing only neighborhood is that they feel dormant.
Yeah.
And therefore empty, and therefore, again, that interstitial space is not being used, it's not populated, it's undefined, right?
Yeah.
I think that I think that's what it comes down to. All of the, people love to go to downtowns and places like that because of the activity, because of the energy that's there.
Right. But so, like, for example, this image we're looking at, which is in the center of Copenhagen, and we have 4-story, 5-story buildings on both sides on a street, more historical, and it's just a street, but the first level is all shops and restaurants and whatever. So there's a program aspect like you're talking about, but also the buildings themselves, even these, which are not great works of architecture, they have a bit more detail. It's not just flat boxes with punched openings, which a lot of modern large-scale structures are. And I just feel like that, quote, decoration, adds a depth and dimension physically to the structure and visually also depth, and it makes a huge difference.
Actually, we went to a neighborhood that was mostly modern. Do you remember in Zurich when we did that architecture tour? There's a street that had like...
the main street, the big street, before we crossed the bridge.
There is one we went to that right before, that had a lot of like modern buildings. It felt more like not like a financial district, but more like kind of like an office, you know?
Yeah.
And that was fine. I think it's also because there was a street.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's also where thinking that having a bunch of open space is always a good thing. I think, you know, having green space and open space is good, but it needs to make sense. You know what I mean?
Here's what I would say, like for, you know, because recently we did a recording about modernism and modern architecture, and mostly focusing on the dialogue in that recording mostly focused on the space between architects and clients rather than architects to architects. Mm-hmm. But what I would say is like, the reason why a lot of people dislike modern architecture is, I think, partly valid, and it's the lack of decoration. More specifically, it's a lack of like depth and texture and soul to the building. Like when you have a building that's mostly flat and it just punched openings, it's minimal. It's hard to feel any kind of, yes, warmth, but also not just warmth. Like it's hard to feel comfort at all. And I think like, I don't know, for me, even the work that we do are just broadly modern works. It's when there's a modern work of architecture or contemporary one that it isn't covered with like wedding cake decoration, but somehow manages to feel like it is embracing or wants to be embraced. I think that's a really good thing. So like, again, more historical buildings and historical districts, all the structures have this layer of, let's say, decoration on it or ornamentation. And it just helps everyone feel like they're more connected to the environment. I feel like, do you know, does that make sense?
I think it's also, you know, it's pretty basic, but I think it's also, it helps just having your eye land on the building and actually spend more than 2 seconds looking at it.
Rather than just like sliding around.
Rather
this,
than
like,
seeing just a glass facade and just like glancing at it and moving on.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, look at this. So this is an image of, do you remember the name of this place?
I don't remember how they say it, but it's
Newhound?
Yeah, Newhound.
It's interesting also in the language and a lot of the letters that they have and the words you just don't like pronounce.
I know. Yeah, I remember, I think we mentioned that in the first recording. I remember seeing the subway stop and I would like pronounce it in my head, and then the voice in the subway would say it and I'm like, oh, it's not even close.
And not even close.
But this is a very interesting neighborhood. It's, you know, it was kind of like the image that I would have had in my head of Copenhagen at Christmas, right? It's like I think it's called the New Port, even though it looks like an old port, right? Yeah. And it's just a series of tight, colorful homes of 4 or 5 stories with pitch roof, you know, all kind of like against each other, each of a different color, white windows. There's nothing extremely fancy or complicated about how they look, but because they're all kind of like, it's not about one house, it's about how all of them look together. And I think actually that's maybe why, you know, those new development neighborhood don't feel good, is that they're each about themselves and they're not really about how they each make the neighborhood look one way or the other.
But, you know, they have things like development guidelines or the scale of houses, HOAs.
Like admin, basic, you know, soulless.
I mean, if you look at this too, what's adding to the character of the environment is the fact these buildings are wonky. I mean, these roofs are sagging. Got one that's like pitched at like
Look, the one
a
on
1 to 12.
The third on the left.
Unnaturally, you know. Yeah, I know. It's sloping. It's sloping in the wrong direction. We have a double pitch.
But it's kind of funny because if you look at this building, it almost looks like a kid's drawing.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's nothing fancy, complicated, but it does, you know, it has a soul, it has character, it's imperfect. And I think that's probably also why people really love, you know, older streets in downtowns, is that it has the sense of time and it has a sense of imperfection. And that's something that's a little hostile to this new neighborhood is that they're too new. They're too perfect in the front. And I think it just doesn't feel real. They don't feel real.
I always describe buildings as like people, in the sense that I think all of us, architects and non-architects, we collectively are drawn toward and like the ones that have a character to them, regardless of them being new or old. Having said that, old things naturally have character because time has passed. It's a weird phenomena that, like,
but I think it's like
something's
you
old,
meet someone who's 90 years old, you have some sort of respect for having lasted that long.
Well, there's that. Like, I mean, yeah, so the character is a result of just time passing, and there's the weathering and the leathering and whatever else. But like, I think also for new buildings, when they have to work. When a new building is new, it doesn't have the advantage of just being around for a long time and aging. The design of it has to work extra hard to establish some kind of character that has that, kind of emotion, it elicits the emotion that I'm talking about. I think one of my other favorite aspects or kind of thoughts about design is the idea of theme and variation. I love that. I love looking at a set of things, whether it be individual buildings or a set of things in one building, and figuring out what is the theme and how we're going to do variation and what are the limits of theme and variation. And I like that because theme and variation is not specific to material. It doesn't mean color. It doesn't mean shape. It's not specific to anything. And you can create both of those with each other in whatever way you want. And I don't know, and for whatever reason, a lot of, again, more historic districts, they have theme and variation. And I don't know if there was. I mean, yeah, there's probably a lot of planning that went involved, but I just, it's like, why can't we do that now?
I feel like those old buildings back then, there was not that much like rules and planning. People were just probably going with the flow, getting inspired by the other building that was done before theirs, and just kind of like evolving, one after another.
Maybe it's the wonkiness. I like that could really honestly be it.
Well, the kind of like handmade, handcrafted, kind of like not computer drafted, all of that, no 3D modeling, like all of that impacts like the results in a way, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I hope there's some way to do this.
I have to say, though, I was not a big fan of those white windows everywhere.
Well, from where we come from, right, the white windows, my immediate thought is vinyl windows, which I immediately think of as being cheap.
I know.
But that's just a cultural thing.
And a lot of them were not vinyl. A lot of them were like painted, wood. And actually, we saw a lot of the older buildings had the double windows, which I thought were very interesting.
What do you mean double windows?
It was a window next to a window with a gap in between to help, insulate the cold, right?
Yeah.
And probably because at that time they didn't have, dual glaze windows, so they were just building two windows.
Literally just dual windows.
Yeah, just dual windows. But it's actually it was very cute to see that, because in a lot of apartment buildings, people use those windows almost as mini storefront to their homes. So it was Christmas. A lot of them had set up like Christmas decor, and each, window, like they have, let's say, 5 windows in their apartment facing the street. They each had the same decor in those mini storefronts. Yeah. And it was kind of cute. I was like, you could imagine every holiday, you kind of like change things up and things. And it was just the simplest thing, but I thought that was very, very nice.
I mean, this is just, it's really reminding me of so much of more of my academic career and being fascinated with urbanism and how buildings relate to it, and windows, people looking out windows, people looking into windows, the narrative of seeing your window from the street.
It's funny because I love to look inside people's apartment at night or homes. Like I could drive for hours just looking inside. I love when I feel like there's someone living in a place and like
and you're creeping on them.
No, but I love thinking that someone lives in a home. It's a weird thing. And if the light is on, it's like slightly warm, and you can kind of get a peek of like who they are, what they're into. I find it super cool, but I hate when people see inside my home. Like, no, but it's I don't know. You just project the story of the people, how these people live in that home.
And that's not a. But I think
not in a creepy way.
But I think that
in an architect way.
This. I'm doing research. You're creeping by people's. What are you doing? Research. I think that some of what we're talking about could be kind of construed as just, how do I say it? Like fluff and not architecture discussion. But that's not right. That's not true. I don't think.
You mean this conversation?
What we just talked about, all this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not NPR level of
No.
thinking,
But I mean, fluff in the sense that it's not like, so like at the beginning we said, okay, we're going to talk about architecture. Now we're talking about like seeing windows and seeing people through windows. But I think like, for me, that's the essence of the architecture. And so my point is that I feel like a lot of contemporary work focuses too much on the form of things and how it looks as a sculpture, as a decorative sculpture, frankly, rather than thinking about the experience that the structure is creating for people. And I don't mean experience as in experiencing the structural gymnastics of the structure. Mm-hmm. I mean the experience of that the architecture is framing or outlining to take place. Not experiencing like the physicality of the structure, but experiencing the again, going back to the idea of the architecture as a stage, right? As a platform of sorts. And I just think that I feel like a lot of contemporary work needs to think more about that. Or not. I'm not suggesting we abandon form and formal investigations or tectonics and whatever else, but like I just think when we only think about that, we're not really doing the community a service. I think we're being kind of self-centered in our own research.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some more, because I think we're gonna skip.
And I don't know if we need to talk about the subway stations. I don't really care to.
Well, the interesting thing is that the subway stations were all the same. Which I guess, if you think in retrospect, like all of the Parisian subway stations are the same, same with New York
is different.
Well, there's so many though there.
These are identically.
But they're identical. Like it's the same material, it's the same setup, and in a way it's great because it's consistent. In some ways it's weird because you don't really know where you are.
It's an interesting point. It's very disorienting because it's like you've actually, when you're down this far below, and on average we're like 4 stories below, I think 3 stories. I don't know. We're quite. Well, let me put it this way: it feels like you're really far down. It's not like when you're in this platform. If people are looking at the picture, it's not like you can see the daylight. You're like underground. Yeah. And every time you're on these platforms, they're exactly the same except for the name of the stop. That's the only difference.
Which actually makes you wonder. Were the windows in the train rear windows or just screens? And we actually did not go anywhere this whole time.
But it does psychologically divorce you from any understanding of place.
Yeah.
And I actually am not a fan of that at all. I think again, if I were designing state, I would make them different. Like I think there's something to be, because I don't think.
I mean, I love, like in Paris, like there is the subway station that's near the Louvre is different than the one that's like elsewhere. It's kind of like it's giving you an appetizer of like what's at the surface, and I think that's kind of cool. Yeah, this cool. Maybe was a bit too cold and rudimentary in a way.
I mean, I think that the subway platforms should be thought about as places and not simply transitional transportation zones, because they are places and they are physically places, and they're also physically located in a spot geographically.
But this is also very telling of the vibe within the subway. It is not really a place where people socialize.
It's just about efficiency.
It is not, it is not the New York subway where you can like meet people and chit chat for like 40 minutes. It's a 10-minute ride and everyone just goes on about their day. And that's kind of,
I agree with that. I think you can have your cake and eat it too. I think you can do both things. So
yeah.
Oh yeah. So talking about some of the more like destinations that we wouldn't see, we saw rather. What is this one called?
Circle Bridge.
Who did this? Someone famous, right?
Someone famous. It's funny because a lot of those things, like, I've learned about them when I was in school, which was, a little while ago.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm like, wow, you're going to get to see the stuff we've seen in the books. That was like really cool when we studied architecture. But then you kind of forget that time has passed and those structures have aged too.
Yeah.
And you go there and you're like, oh, yeah, it's not as vibrant as
so
it
is your
used to be.
Mild level of disappointment, or maybe it's more than mild, was it because it's aged or because of something else?
I feel like it's actually maybe a bridge that looked cooler from a bird's eye view. And the concept was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But when I was there, I didn't particularly feel anything for it. Granted that it actually opens to let boats come through, which we did not see it move. We saw it fixed. But again, this is the conversation about form function and what does the extra fluff brings to the experience. And I've been moved by more simple bridges before, and this one did not really do it for me. So it was cool to see something in the books in real life, but that's kind of it.
That's the equivalent of saying like, they're not a bad person. That's like basically what you just said.
It's not a bad bridge.
Yeah, no, it was pretty much a letdown. But again, maybe my expectations were too high because it is just a bridge and it is just a series of circles. But this highlights another
and also I think we have to put things back in context. Maybe at the time the bridge was done, this was a big deal, but it was done like 20 years ago or something. Like a bridge like this today is not a big deal because the invention and the concept and the other things have been done. So in its defense, I think that's kind of what happened.
Are these towers, are they structural in any way? Or are they just supporting themselves?
The poles?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not the engineer of this project.
I don't think they are. I think they're just supporting themselves.
Or maybe they're just supporting lights. I think those are like
yeah, sure,
lights.
But they have nothing to do with the bridge. I don't know how
I don't
they
know.
could.
There's a bunch of cables.
Yeah, but the cables are not holding up the railing. The railing looks like orange cables, but it's not.
The bridge is holding the posts.
Yeah, so they're just there to hold up lights. I don't know. What I was going to say is I think this is a good example of, look, it's a fine work of bridge. But so much of the, again, contemporary work that you go and see or that we study about, it looks cool in specific view, mostly aerials, a lot of times I find, and it looks cool in diagrams, right? This is the type of thing and maybe I have seen this a lecture about this and maybe not, but this is the type of thing where someone's in a lecture hall at fucking the GSD and they're talking about this bridge and we abstracted the circles and the circles overlap. We have all these dotted lines of circles overlapping circles, and then it moves. Tick, 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 tick. There's a time lapse of the diagram moving. Tick, 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 tick. And there's these things. And it's like, oh, well, so fucking cool. And you go there yeah, it's a bridge of circles, and there's nothing about the aesthetics, which a lot of architects hate the word aesthetics for some fucking reason. There's nothing about the aesthetics, which is the majority of how we experience things, that's significant whatsoever. And I just, it drives.
It was gonna be harsh.
It just drives me. I'm not saying it's bad, and I'm not saying it's not worthwhile, but what I am saying is that there's this weird thing that takes place in contemporary architecture, in the academic setting, where we all get super jazzed up about the concept of something and this diagram with dashed lines and boxes moving and lines that don't exist in fucking real life. And meanwhile, the actual thing in real life is almost nothing. And I say it's nothing because it doesn't present anything of aesthetic value, of experiential spatial value. And for the average person, they'd probably even see less into it than I would. And I think it's like, that's also what I'm using this as an excuse to talk about what I said before, is we have to do more than that. And it's not enough to have a cool diagram of a box that, gets the corners lopped off and then now it's beautiful and amazing because you had some lecture about the abstract geometries of box and Boolean and splines, you cut off stuff and now it's there. That's not enough. The actual thing you're building needs to be good. And there's too much of this, people don't follow through. You got to follow through and actually make a thing good. Now,
They just stop at the diagram. Yeah.
It's mildly a criticism of school, but I also think a lot of that should be the focus of school. But, if you're going to be an architect or a bridge designer or whatever, right, you need to keep evolving beyond this kind of stuff. And that's the thing, too, that's very weird is that, like, a lot of the hero projects, not all of them, but a lot of the hero projects and hero architects and designers that students all kind of like, have starry eyes over, in real life they're kind of dog shit. And I'm like, do you know how many offices there are who don't how do I say this, who maybe have concepts that are not as strong, or maybe they do, but they just don't spend time doing all these diagrams and they don't go to the GST because they don't care to, and their work and execution is miles beyond all these people giving lectures. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's everybody. Like Herzog and Bjorn, the fucking phenomenal work. There's a lot of architects that do both very well, or a handful, I should say. And so anyway, when I got there, this was how I felt. Still cool to see. Again, I'm not saying it's a terrible project, but it's like this. It's like
yeah, I agree. Okay, let's move on. Okay. It's got to be David ranting.
People are like, I designed that bridge. Why are you being such a dick about it?
There is was it the Museum of War that was right across the street? That was a funky, goofy looking thing.
We didn't go inside.
Like the roofs and the windows. And I'm like, here is an example probably of someone who built something without plans.
But it's so cool.
It's pretty cool.
It's so cool. It's really, really complex and cool. Like you could, in terms of the form of thing, like spend a lot of time dissecting why this thing works, and maybe it doesn't work, more so than some of the diagrammatic things.
I mean, you look at the scale of this thing next to the other two buildings. It's like,
it's huge.
I don't care what you guys are doing. I'm going to do my own thing in this lot. Yeah, that was a pretty goofy one.
I can talk about this one later, the Black Diamond, because I went inside.
Mm-hmm.
On my own again.
No, not on your own.
I was on my own.
You were accompanied by two grown men.
Yeah, who are
your bodyguards.
basically children, though. Like, where are you guys going? Don't go over there.
Yeah. There were some expensive buildings throughout the city. This one was a little bit further along the water after Circle Bridge. And it had a lot of, complicated details.
Yeah. I have more photographs, but I removed it from
they had like louvers that were actually solar panels.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, wow, someone had to like engineer this stuff, like it was a lot of little pieces, and like the weathered metal panels, the cladding. It was
expensive.
It was expensive. It was an office building. I'm sure it's an expensive office building to be in. But
I will say, more as a person who practices in architecture, it's because we do houses, and sometimes clients have like a shit ton of money and you can do cool things, but a lot of times for even the average wealthy person, they don't have the money to like do custom everything. When you do a commercial project, like a legit commercial building, everything is custom. And for a period of time, I just got kind of used to that. Like, we just invent the facade. We do whatever we want, more or less, because it's going to be custom. Yeah, we have this extruded profile that's whatever dimension, it does clips together, it goes here and there, it lights up, it does this and that. Yeah, fine, whatever. We draw it, they make it. And then, of course, when you work with like people who are not billion-dollar companies, they're just people, have houses, they're like,
what it's a matter of
do you want to spend
too,
how much?
Right? Like if you're repeating that 50 times on the building, then it's worth the customness. If you're doing that once, then it's going to be expensive. So,
yeah. But when I saw this, I just thought, man, this is a lot.
I was thinking about the amount of drawings. I was like, it's a lot of drawings.
A lot of drawings.
Yeah.
A lot of drawings. It's also why when we have like residential contractors like, I don't know about doing that. I'm like, dude, shut the fuck up. It's like, possible. Do you understand the things that we've worked on, the things that happen in the real world? Don't tell me it's not possible.
That's for sure.
Have you seen any of these towers, how they get struck? Don't tell me you can't like move this beam around or, this and that, whatever it is. All bronze building. Yeah, pretty crazy. Glass bridges, I don't know if we want to talk about like historical stuff. We just want to move on to like,
well, honestly, I don't think I put a whole lot of historical buildings on the list because, coming from France, I'm like, I've had my share of historical buildings. Yeah. And I also, in complete honesty, would not think that they would be nicer than the French ones. So
okay, wow.
I didn't want to like
that
bother.
about?
Well, I mean, there's just so much in France. But I actually very much enjoyed a few much older building that we saw, and it's always about the quirkiness or some of their details, or trying to understand like, oh, what was that piece of wood sticking at the top used for? You think, well, I'm thinking there is a couple windows below, they're probably for like hauling like grains or food up in the upper levels or something like that. Like I like the trying to figure out like what things were used for on these old buildings. And kind of like look at the material and how things are composed and the scale and all of that stuff. So it was nice to have a few of these in there.
It was. It's just it's comfortable to look at, is what I would say. And then there's a lot of
those again, like kind of like brick, trimless window, flush everything,
random pattern, randomized windows. Yeah.
I don't know. To be honest, as much as some of them are really well built and executed and detailed, it won't be a building I would fall in love with. You know what I mean? Which is, in a way, we keep talking about this, which is fine because we still need those background buildings.
God. It's fine. Yeah, we need like people to like take out the trash. It's fine. It's fine that you're dumb shit.
Not everyone is a beauty in this world. We just have to be aware of that, and it's okay. Look, it's not the worst building, but it is not someone I would fall in love with. Like,
Sure. Well, my thing is that this type of architecture, which is, I feel like the Danish led this type of modern architecture, which is a facade made up of like kind of randomized square grid stuff or just floating windows, is still popular, but was like peak popular probably 10, 15 years ago, I feel like. And it sort of died down. And the problem with, not the problem, but the challenge with it from an architectural approach is that you can't really do it more than 3 times and then it's the same exact thing over and over and over. Like as an office, like, okay, your thing is random grid stuff and that's all you do. There's just not much depth there to unpack. And in this particular one, which is not a great building, it's like a one-trick pony. You do it once, and I don't know what you learn
talking about
from
like the street experience. Like I feel like those flat buildings just feels like Jon Snow is standing at the top. It just feels like a wall. It doesn't feel like a building I would want to be walking along.
I would love to. You see this guy? What are you doing up there? Who are you? Jon Snow, Lord Commander
of the Night's Watch. No, I know.
Ollie, get down from there, Jon Snow. It's over. It didn't end well. No one liked it.
But some people love those types of buildings. So to each their own. Like that's
to each their own. Don't come on. No. There's right and there's wrong, and if you're wrong, shut up. I was part of a architecture kind of group who were talking about things, and it's casual. We're all like having fun, and I think one of the things that came up was, what was it? Broadly, it was like how we all work with clients and this and that. And I think the question was posed, like, as an architect, a person who creates things for other people, like one of the challenges is to see through your vision, right? Not just for yourself, but to see the project through and make sure it turns out well. And what does it feel like? How do you deal with the fact that doesn't always happen? And in that conversation, then it was brought up like, okay, well, clients sometimes are the things that derail the project and where it should be going, frankly. And the question was like, well, how do you know if the client's not wrong in their, client is not right in their feedback, their concerns, their comments, or what they want to do with the thing? And I'm like, no, if it like, and they also asked, therefore, how do you know that you're right? I'm like, because I'm right. The fuck, this is my expertise. And I think as not to say that people shouldn't have their opinions and that we all should not listen to clients, not saying that, but there's just, I find it a very slippery slope when architects are like, everyone, like community, they all have like their ideas and it's their ideas, so it's valid. I'm like, no, because someone has an opinion does not make them valid. I don't give a shit, like if it's their project or it's their money. If you're wrong, you're wrong. No, that looks stupid. Don't put that on there. And you're not right. And it drives me nuts when architects get too soft, because for sure there are plenty of architects that are on the opposite end where they need to like not soften up. They need to be more like humans and listen to folks. But So some architects are too soft, and like you have to, if you're an expert and you believe in your expertise, which you've developed over 15, 20, 30 years, you stand by that. Don't roll over and
you do not put blue cheese in Nutella. Look, listen to the Michelin star. You do not do that. No, I agree. Unless I'm right, which most of the time I am. So there you go. Okay, more little cute gingerbread houses.
Oh, so super quick. There's this plaza that we walked through a bunch of times in the center of the city, and I think we talked about it in the other recording too. It's a nice space, but on the left side of the image, there's this really ugly modern building that just fucks the whole thing up. Like, I don't think I have other images of like the right portion, but it's all historic buildings, a lot of texture, all the things we're describing, big open space, good for, Christmas trees being sold and whatever else. And there's a lot of potential. And then the left side is just, the whole thing is ruined by these two modern buildings on the left. And I'm like, it's such a bummer. It's the same thing as like when we have precious resources like waterfronts, like lakes and beaches, and we put shitty architecture there or shitty land planning. It's like we have ruined this one. It was such a great opportunity, and a lot of value could be had here.
They should be paying a fee for destroying that plant.
They should be, they should be.
It's interesting that this got approved, to be honest, because if you look at the character of the place, this has nothing to do with it. So
I don't know what happened.
It's kind of an oddball.
Then you have the juxtaposition of what I assume to be an actual historic building with a 7-Eleven at the bottom of it. And I don't know what that means. Well,
it just means that, big chains are everywhere and taking over and just sneaking in places where they probably don't belong.
If you took this image, you made it black and white and added some kind of like filters on it, and you played Daft Punk, you'd feel like you were in some kind of, Tron or Blade Runner. We are definitely 1 degree away from that. If not, we're already there. We just don't know it. Then there's this funky building, which is called the what?
Round Tower in English, but I think it's called Rundentorn or something like that. I do not know how to say it.
Actually, what's funny is I had a dream about this building last night.
Oh.
I don't know why.
Because you probably thought about this recording coming up? Was your subconscious?
In the dream, I needed to use the bathroom.
I just slide the way down.
And I had to run down.
They actually had a bathroom at the top.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, I used the bathroom there.
Well, I didn't know that in my dream, so I was sprinting
you
down.
went there, so you should have known that in your dream.
Yeah. So what is this thing?
It's a round tower. And
no
you
kidding.
Go up to it. No, so what's interesting, it's a tower that is basically a ramp, a circular elliptical.
What
do you say?
Spiral?
A spiral ramp that goes up to the top, and obviously at the top you have views, toward the city and whatever. But it was used by a king, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was built for the king to be able to go up the tower in his
chariot.
Yeah.
What would you say in French?
For what?
The chariot.
Oh, I was going to say in his carriage.
What is it in French?
Oh, what is it in French?
I mean, chariot looks like it would be a French word.
A chariot? Yeah, but you wouldn't put a king in a chariot. It's like you put a king in a cart. You know what I mean?
Okay.
No, you wouldn't put him in a cart. You put him in a carrosse is a carriage. It's like what Cinderella is in, the little wheels and the little door that opens and the fluff inside and it bounces every time
skinny
there's
ass
a bump.
wheels that are
Which to be honest, there was a lot of it was made of brick pavers on the floor. It probably was a bumpy ride because they didn't have rubber back then, right? So it's probably just like wood wheels and probably super loud in there if you think about it.
It would have been crazy loud, yeah.
But anyway, so you could just run up to the top, see what's happening.
Interesting. Yeah, the view at the top was okay. But I don't know.
But
actually don't have,
But it was kind of an interesting experience because you never really see buildings that, do that, except the Guggenheim. But the Guggenheim is so much bigger and, has windows and art on the wall. Like this is just pure white and brick and the spiral. And it was kind of It's kind of cool. It was interesting too because if you are walking toward the center of the spiral, it was a lot harder than if you are walking on the edges.
But it was also
shorter.
It's also like a fifth of the steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the top, what was cool is actually they had the level that had the bathroom. They had like some exposed beams, so you could see kind of like the bolts and the straps that were attaching to the framing, which was really cool. And further into that hall, which I don't think we have a picture of, there is a piece of glass, and you can see into the attic of the church that's below. So you could see all the framing, and they had like put lights in there, and it was actually pretty cool to like sneak a peek, under the roof.
That makes sense. Sneaking peeks. Of course you want to do that. And now let's give a shout out to our sponsors who support our show.
Available with Revit version 2023.1 onward, Autodesk Insight is a next generation carbon analysis tool that can help you make the leap to low carbon design. With only a few clicks, Insight lets you analyze, understand, and track the embodied and operational carbon impact of your design choices. You can then visualize opportunities for energy efficiency and carbon mitigation with its flexible dashboards, helping you make more sustainable and informed decisions. Check out the Insight link in our show notes to find out more.
This episode of The Second Studio is brought to you by BQE Core, the all-in-one firm management software built for architects. Designed by architects for architects, Core helps you track time effortlessly, manage projects seamlessly, and get paid faster, so you can focus on design and not spreadsheets. With powerful automation and real-time insights, it's everything you need to run a smarter, more profitable firm. See how BQE Core can transform your practice by clicking the link in our show notes. Not much to say with the markets other than I was surprised to learn that. So, like, I feel like it's pretty common in a lot of cities for there to be what we would call like farmers markets and things like that. But from what I understood, this is like the only one. It's not really a farmer. It's sort of a farmer's market, but it's much more
So that's what
formal.
Our friend who lived there told us. She said, this is the only farmer's market, in quote, that you will find because they don't do farmer's market here. And I was like, what? So, when they were selling Christmas trees, that's the most farmer's market we're going to see, which is crazy because it is such a European thing to do, to have those open air market when you buy, your fruit, your meat, your cheese, your treats, like your clothes even.
Maybe their grocery stores are already so fresh so that those are basically farmer's market quality, but I don't think so.
Or maybe they're just not into food so much.
It could be.
Like
what do you got? Smart bar.
Raw
Okay.
ingredients,
Yeah, gotcha.
I don't know. It was kind of unexpected.
Yeah. This is not really architecture, but we went to this place called Tivoli
Gardens.
which is technically an amusement park and the oldest one in Denmark, or the oldest one in Copenhagen. I forget whichever. And it goes through different themes of the year. So obviously it's Christmas theme when we was there. It's not always Christmas. So they do like a fall Halloween kind of whatever thing. And they probably have something for Easter, I would imagine. I don't know, whatever. But the thing I want to say about this, we don't have a lot of architectural photographs. It's mostly just photos of people's faces, which we're not going to put up. Is the planning of it. Like, you have these areas where you have kind of narrow and jogged, I guess you call them streets or walking paths, and wider ones, and plazas with little pavilions in the middle, and then like a water thing, and you go over the bridge and whatever. And it's interesting to me because it's like this is almost a example, microcosm of a lot of the great qualities that you would want to have in an actual city.
It's almost like when we design cities, we don't dream enough,
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you're right. I feel like all of the stuff you would want in a city was in this amusement park, but in some part of the city, you couldn't even get to that level. And it is, it goes back to the conversation of, zoning, regulation, and codes and all that. I think we collectively just follow the rules too much and forget about the fun, I think that's a shame.
Yeah. And also wonder if it has to do with scale. So what's interesting about this place, well, that's not true. I was going to say a lot of the structures, some of they have different like zones or neighborhoods, whatever you call it, within the amusement park, right? And some of the areas are pretty tight, like I said, and the structures on either side of you are quite small. And it's more intimate kind of space. And they have ones that are quite large too. What I was going to say originally that maybe has to do with the scale of things. So like, for example, which I've talked about before, Main Street Disneyland in the original Disneyland is interesting because they're real life architecture in terms of like their design, but they're shrunken. It's like 3/4 scale. It's something weird, but it oddly feels quite comfortable. And I don't know, maybe one of the themes that's coming up in this recording is like, I just wonder if building giant walls of buildings is just not...
we just got lost in the scale these days.
It doesn't feel right.
Side note, I think Disneyland Paris is opening a new section of the park or something.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
we gotta go.
And then I think it was Christmas Day.
It was.
Everything was closed. So we decided to go check out the local aquarium museum.
It's called the Blue Dot? The blue sphere. Something blue.
Oh, is it?
Did we go to another aquarium recently? We did. We've been to like a bunch, I feel like, for some reason. No, it's called the blue whale, the blue something. Yeah. I'm sure of it.
I would have to look it up. That doesn't ring a bell. It was a really nice... Actually, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to an aquarium. Great. But you know what? That was the only thing open on Christmas Day anyway. So it actually was a really nice... it was a really nice experience inside. Like, it was really well done. You know, sometimes aquariums are kind of like sad because they're just kind of feel old and unkept or like not really designed for the experience. Like if you ignore the fish, you look around, like it's not really pleasant. Like this one was very nice. There was colors everywhere. There were like, you know, life-size, you know, models of turtles and sharks and stuff. And that was really cool. Even the cafeteria was really well done. And they had the view of the water. I mean, it was just like a really nice experience. Nothing huge on the inside.
Yeah, it was actually quite small.
Which was surprising because the exterior makes it look like it's this giant thing.
There must be some other areas like research components or something because there's no way...
Or maintenance, you know, like resources and stuff. But no, it was pretty cool.
What'd you think about the outside?
I thought it fitted the area.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like swirpy, swoopy, scale fish building, you know, mixing with the gray sky and the gray water. Like, I feel like it was appropriate.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything flashy. I thought it was tasteful, you know.
Yeah.
And usually the steps of, I have to say, usually the steps of buildings aren't really my thing.
Did you notice the execution though near the entry? So like, I have to find a better picture, but like in this one, the concrete stuff, which I think is meant to be a body of water.
Yeah, it was just frozen, so they stopped the water so people wouldn't like race on it.
Right. What's weird is with a lot of these buildings that have these big gestures to them, they're really hard. They really don't follow through in terms of the execution of details. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'm not necessarily blaming like the architect or the builder. Like it's just really hard to do that. And I think that's also, generally speaking, one of the difficulties with doing houses is every single fucking quarter of an inch in a house needs to be great because the person sees it up close every day right there. When you do commercial work, it's like people are not going to pay as close of attention to these things, especially if you're talking about like restaurants
but one could argue more people are actually going to see those details, but
their attention is not not like that. Because they're not the client, they're just visitors. But anyway, so it's all of the junctures and the corners where things meet is pretty shoddy in this one. I don't know if I have a picture of the front, but like just the way the concrete wall meets this and that, it was just like bad. And I don't know why.
We have a lot of great things to say about the architecture in Copenhagen.
But I just don't know why it doesn't happen. I mean, I know why because it's
they
hard,
went cheap on the CA. That's why. I mean, you know, you gotta pay the architect to do their job. No, like a next.
Yeah, historic stuff. Although I did go into this space, which you didn't, and there's columns of people being squished.
Yeah.
I'd never seen this in person before. I've only seen it in like the Gru movies, not in like here. Look at that. Squished people. They're jacked though, huh? They're holding up that building.
They're holding up the building.
They're so strong that they're striking a pose while also holding up the building.
They're probably farting.
They're like, let me look good. Let me look good while I hold up this building. Well, you show a little bit of thigh. I'm wearing a cloth. I'm just going to cover up my pee-pee, but show my thigh. Look at my quads. Look at these fucking obliques, man. Look at that. You know for sure that's not a structural position. That's just them posing.
Well, it takes them no effort to lift that building.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously.
So funny. It is, but on a serious note, it's incredible. Like this kind of the work, the craftsmanship for all of these types of things is just phenomenal.
It's incredible. People can sculpt that.
I don't.
No,
get
I
it.
saw pictures.
I'd be so afraid of chipping off someone's nose by accident. Fuck! Get the super glue.
I saw pictures of a sculpture that had like a veil, and it was like a lace veil, and it was sculpted out of marble. It was insane. I'm like, how could you even make that?
The capacity of like of humans to do things like that. It really is. I don't know. There's some kind of extra dimensional talent that's happening in some of those cases for sure.
No.
Yeah. So let's talk about this building. So this is
It's the blocks.
OMA building. I have not seen many OMA structures, I don't think. So this one kind of stood. I know I have. I just can't remember them. And the blocks is the name of the building, and part of the building is the Danish Architecture Center. Is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just, I think this was done by OMA a while ago.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of blocks, cubic block, glass blocks, black blocks, green blocks, all kind of nestled together in a kind of cloud block Lego formation thing. Very kind of mid 2000s, early 2000s OMA, I feel like.
I mean, again, it looks like a computer model made it into our world. It was, it was kind of cool and playful, but nothing. It's the kind of building that you need nothing around. You can't have any other buildings around, I feel like.
Well, there's nothing around it, so that's...
Well, that's why they put it there. Because I think it's the type of building that just doesn't really care about what's around.
No, I don't think it should either. There's nothing around it.
No, I don't know. Yeah, and you're right. I don't think it should. But yeah, I mean, I thought, yeah, sure, it's playful, it's cool. I think I was disappointed because I thought that the whole architecture design center was the whole building,
right?
And then came to find out it's only like two tiny
two
floors,
of the boxes. Yeah.
two tiny boxes from that whole Jenga composition, and the rest is, I think, what seemed to be apartments. So
apartments.
I think so. I think there was apartments. There was a gym. So it's kind of I think it was residential.
Really?
Which is kind of weird. I would not have expected
cool.
that. So yeah, sure. Again, the scale. Some of those places along the water with difficult access, you don't know where the entry door is. You have to walk around the freaking building, which is like, I don't know how many blocks. And then you get there and then you have to cross the street because it's not the main entrance. This is the type of thing that pisses me off. So,
yeah.
So talk about the pedestrian experience to approaching a building. I think this one did not do a good job. Like, you can't make such a big statement and then enter through like the butt crack of the building to like make your way in. Like, I don't know. It's also the type of building that has like no front or back. It's a four faces building, which is interesting. But I feel like there should be an entrance on every face.
Well, it might not make sense programmatically to do that. I just, how do I say it? Like, the expression, it is what it is kind of thing. That's like kind of what this is. It's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not more, it's not less, it's just what it is. Yeah. And it's also to convey, it's not necessarily very exciting. It's not the most boring thing. It just is what it is. It's just a bunch of blocks. And I don't know if, obviously not every building can be a 10 out of 10 in every single way. And of course, that's the way I talk about buildings. So, but at the same time, I think we should probably strive to do more than it is what it is. When people see buildings, it should do something more than like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and even, look at around that building, like the treatment of the leftover, again, urban space around the building, I feel like wasn't really approach. And I understand, the architect does the building and like someone else needs to do the rest or something, but like, I don't know, those exterior spaces were just nothing spaces. It just seemed...
we a while ago we interviewed that British architect who won something. What is her name? Shit, I think it starts with an A. You know what I'm talking about?
Alison Brooks.
Yeah, Alison Brooks. Super cool person also. Should have her back on the show. Anyway, I think she's British.
Yeah.
I love speaking with her, but I remember she made a comment which was something to the effect of beauty in architecture has been a taboo subject since modernism, or since like the 90s, or something like this. And I don't know what she would say about this building, so I'm not speaking for her, but that statement, this building, her statement is in a response to things like this. Like, I think there's a period of time, maybe even now, where we were so obsessed with like program and diagrams and all the stuff I was saying before, effectively, that we just like, that's enough to validate a structure. And it's not enough to validate the structure.
I think also, I mean, I don't want to make generalization or whatever, but I also think that a lot of that came from the fact that buildings were designed by men. And, you know, the whole like emotion, things being beautiful, it's not really a macho, manly thing to brag about.
That's
right?
fair. I think
it's
that's
all about like rational and like big gestures and you're not showing any feelings, you know, this and that. I think the trend is changing, you know, amongst men architects. I think also now there is more women architects who are getting to like higher position in design. So this is also changing the narrative. But I would not be surprised if that's also, you know, part of why those buildings were that way.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
So anyway, so I mean, you know, it's a nice looking building, but yeah.
There was a slide. I got to go down the slide.
There's a slide. Yeah.
That was cool. That was the highlight. Go down the slide. Yeah. And then one of the mornings, mostly because we were going to Hart Bakery, I think, and we were on our way somewhere. We got off at the station, which was right adjacent to this church. Cathedral Church. I forget the name of it. We can look it up, I suppose.
No, it wasn't. Oh.
But it was beautiful. Gorgeous.
So,
like legit beautiful.
As a French who've seen a lot of churches.
Yep.
I wasn't particularly like moved by its beauty.
Nah, shut up. That's just you being racist.
But no, I'm not racist. What? Yeah. But I have to say that the circular plan of the church, I don't think I've really experienced that before in a church.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool.
Expand on circular plan for people who are listening. Like, what does that mean?
It's a round church.
I knew you were going to say that. But how is that different from...
Well, I mean, your typical, I don't know, you know, Christian church in France, for example, would be like the cross.
Yeah.
Literally the cross.
Yeah.
Right? It's like...
The plan is a cross.
The plan is a cross, right? And like
across
the end
of
the cross... What?
Across from what? The plan is across from what?
Across from what?
It's across what?
What?
What? It's across from what?
From what?
Yeah. Across the street. It's across... What is it across from? The plan is across from...
I don't know. It depends where you are. Are you trying to make a joke here? Stupid. But, you know, it's usually like the cross where you have like the... I don't know how you say in English. Is it the nave?
Nave.
Nave.
Actually, I might be mispronouncing that. So
no, I think it's a... I don't know, actually.
Whatever.
It's the nef in French.
I'm not religious.
And then
I
you
just
get
dismiss all this stuff altogether.
To the, I don't know how you say it in English either, like the hotel. That's what they call l'hotel, you know, where the priest does his thing.
Yeah.
Then he branches and then there's stuff behind him, right?
They're dancing. So, hey, what's up, guys?
It's very kind of like one directional in many ways. So it was very interesting to have this church being circular because you kind of had like a you had a corridor on the perimeter of the church. So all the seating was on the center, but then you could basically walk around like you could in the normal cross-shaped church, like you walk on the side. But in this case, you could kind of walk all the way around and get the full experience, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know. There was something really cool about it. I also like the scale. Like it wasn't gigantic. It was pretty intimate. So
I love this building. I think it's phenomenal. There's something also about when you get into it, like just probably because I'm an architect, I guess, but like I love buildings when you get inside of them where the beauty of the experience is all the decoration, but it's also just space. Space. You know, we're not being conservative with space. We're not trying to be efficient with space.
We're
just
an 8-foot ceiling in there. You know
what I mean? Yeah. Because I guess all the reality of being a practicing architect is that space is equal to money. from a development standpoint and from a client standpoint.
Well, it is a church, and it is not a place where people live. So
I know, but I think that is an aspect of what makes some architecture so amazing, is the abandonment of being so conservative and stingy with space. Like, how much of the built environment has to be efficient with space? Which, and now that I say that sounds crazy. Like, why would you not be efficient with space? That's because because you should use space for quality. You shouldn't use space just for fucking dollar signs, right? Yeah. And that's why
tell them, David.
I love that space. There's a lot of space up there.
Okay, next.
How many dollars worth of space is up there? Okay.
Okay, and then we went to this church.
So we are at was it the Danish Architecture Center? The one where we were in there, and they had a bunch of spaces. One of them was like the history of Danish architecture, going from like the 1200s or whatever.
It's actually a very good exhibition.
All the way through to now. So when we get to the later years, it's all of the key players, and some of them we interviewed, which is weird to see. And so we're in this area, and I'm looking at the Sydney Opera House by Jørn. What's his name? Jørn Borg. Whatever. And you clearly I'm a historian. You came up and you're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go see that church. I'm like, we're gonna see his church, and you're like, yeah. I'm like, that's awesome, because I never thought. It's one of those buildings I've seen, and I just never thought I'd ever see it in person, because I didn't know who did it. I couldn't put the two and two together. I didn't know where it was. I'm like, we're going to see that. That is amazing.
So I think there was a quiproquo, because there is
what?
A quiproquo.
Okay.
Because there was another church in that museum that they were showing. And I'm pretty sure that's the one I pointed to, saying we're going to see that, because I had put that one on my list.
So I'm looking at this thing, and you're looking over there, and you're like, and we're both like, we're going to go see the church. And we're like, awesome.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, so we're going to do that tomorrow. Yeah. That sounds good.
And then I'm the one who decided to do the directions.
You're the one doing directions. Because I'm doing translation and whatever. Yeah. Right?
And I was like, okay, I'm going to do the directions, because you had been doing it all the days before. I'm like, okay, I'm going to lead the way. It's fine. Punched it in. I did all the research beforehand. I knew where to go.
Like, it's kind of far. We're going to have to take a train or a bus or something. And I was like, that's weird. I thought it was close to another park, and I thought we could do the park and that the same day. But fine. Maybe I didn't look it up.
And so for it did take a while to get there.
Oh yeah.
And we went like multiple different tickets, because it's outside of the city center, so it's different tickets and all this kind of like hoopla. And
then we get
so
off
for
the
like
bus.
Half of the day we're like on this journey.
Yeah.
And
we're and we're walking after we got off the bus in like, I don't know, what seemed to be the countryside of Denmark. I'm like, okay, we're definitely out of Copenhagen here. We're walking through like little neighborhoods, like little, sidewalks. There was no one outside. There's no tourists but us. And I'm like, this is weird. I feel like this church would get a lot more architects and buzz, right? And then we make a turn, and I'm like, okay, I see like a sign that says church something. I'm like, okay. And then you're like, okay, it's right there. It's right there. And I look around, I'm like, this is a fairly short building. I'm thinking in my mind, the church we're going to see from the pictures I've seen is really tall. So I'm looking at this building, and I'm extremely confused.
It's like half-scale building.
I'm like,
how did they fit it in there?
Literally, I was just thinking that. I was like, does he go underground? Like, how do they... I was like, how do they fit the height? And then I'm thinking, huh? I'm like, wait a minute. David is the one who gave the direction.
Yeah.
What are the odds we are not in the right place? I turn around, and I'm like, okay, let's not.
Well, so
I was not completely unconvinced that it wasn't the church we were going to see.
Then we also had a miniature heart attack.
Tried to get in.
Yeah. So one of the challenges we had on the trip in general was like trying to find out if places were open, because it was during the holidays. And like a lot of, like, in the United States, everything has up-to-date websites.
I know.
In Copenhagen and probably a lot of other countries, it's not that way. So we had a tough time. So sometimes we just roll the dice and go out there. And supposedly this was open. Anyway, we go to the door and it's locked. And it's me and another guy and it's locked. And I'm like, the guy was the head of the group. And I was like, is it closed? He's like, it's locked. I'm like, fuck, because we're at the end of the trip. We traveled like half a day to get here.
You get there, yeah.
Anyway, so we had a miniature panic attack because of that. Then I was greatly relieved when there was another door, which was for like the priest that was open. We went through there. I talked to, there was an office with this woman there. I said, can we visit the church? And like, oh yeah, it's open. I'm like, well then open the main door if the church is open. And so I come back out. I'm like, it's open, guys. We're like, yes. We get inside. I'm at the point, I've had peak stress. It's now gone. I'm like, wow, we're here. This is awesome.
You go to
and then immediately we walk in. I'm like, go inside. And I'm behind you. And I'm kind of like waiting to see everyone's reaction. And then I see you like slowly turn around to me. You're like, this is the wrong church. I'm like, what do you mean this is the wrong church? This is the church. This is the church this is the church. I've seen this church before in image. This is the church. I'm like, no, this is the wrong church.
So you open the door. I walk through that hallway and I'm still thinking about the break. I'm like, where's the break? Like the height.
So you got really far into it.
Like, where are we? And then we get into like the main space of the church, the center. And I'm like, I think my face dropped. And I was like, what? I'm like, we did this whole journey. I'm like, this is not the place. I turned toward my friend and I'm like, this is not it. This is not it. We're in the wrong church, and it's too late to make it to the other one.
Yeah, we were also kind of stressed because we, with families and kids and whatever, it took longer to get there. So we actually got there kind of late.
Late. But then you were thrilled. Everyone was thrilled. It was like, and then, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's a church I did not know about. So, okay, cool.
Yeah. So you had not seen this church before?
No, it does not ring any bell. So I learned to appreciate it despite meeting by accident. And not being what I was expecting to see.
Well,
but,
if you liked it, even though
complex.
you weren't expecting it, I guess that's a good...
Yeah, I mean, it was cool that we got to see it. Pretty quirky, pretty weird, I have to say, but...
I liked it. It would not be like my favorite building, but it's impressive.
I thought, it was different.
So what's interesting, because we actually are taking up a lot of time here, but because I want to get to the other buildings, but...
Yeah,
I know. Apparently, because one of us did some reading about it, that, again, I think his name is Jørn, the architect. He's the same architect who did the Sydney Opera House. A lot of the shapes of this church were inspired, he was inspired by his a trip he took to Maui, like Hawaii, Maui. And that's where these shapes came from.
Is that because he's trying to do a wave?
Further made me skeptical of the building rather than me feeling like it's justified, because what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Again, that's like that's not a primary source. That's like someone who read something, so who knows? But yeah, it
I don't
honestly
really see
it was
Maui
all right.
anywhere.
I mean, I think it's the waves. Yeah,
I mean, it was cool. Right. He designed some of the furniture pieces and lighting and all of that, and I appreciate the effort. It was not on my list, so.
All right, moving on.
It's funny because you kind of change your mind. You really liked it after you saw it, and now you're kind of like, eh.
I mostly said that because you're being a grumpus.
Provocation. And then we went to see another park that we've seen in school, in the books. Vibrant color, urban space.
The Super Klein?
Yeah.
No,
Super Lincoln?
I don't know, whatever. The Super Park by by Big in Copenhagen. And if you Google it, you'll see it's super bright, fluorescent pink, red colors. That is a graphic way to make something interesting, which is, I'm not saying, I think it's a valid approach to cost effectively make something interesting. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I actually don't have any photographs of the place. Thoughts?
That was a bigger letdown than Circle Bridge for sure. Because, the pictures I had in my mind or what you look up online is like thing you've seen in publication. But then again, I have forgotten that this park was built like over 20 years ago. Yeah, so it was a little beat up. Very, very run down. It wasn't upkept, which was kind of a shame, to be honest. So
that's also,
you know,
it's just when we as a species create beautiful things, it takes maintenance to
well, especially if the concept is based on like surface treatment, which required maintenance.
Agreed.
If it was done with like stone pavings and big trees that look nicer and better over time, then that's a whole different story. But this is kind of, let's say, a cheap park. And if you don't maintain a cheap park, it's going to look like shit.
Yeah.
So
that's true. And actually, my statement is incorrect. It's like, because you can create beautiful things that will naturally look beautiful regardless of what happens. A lot of old structures are super dirty.
Mm-hmm.
They look beautiful. I think more so sometimes, right? Yeah, this was a letdown. The vibrant colors of the park, which you would see online, are not there in real life. They all burned away. And I think also, again, this is an example of the thing looked cooler conceptually than it did in real life. And probably even on day one, it was not nearly as cool as what it looked like conceptually or in our imaginations, in our vision of the thing.
Maybe.
Part of it is it's all, is aerial based. Though we continue our tour of seeing more big projects. And so we went to the the project where it's a parking structure that has a mountainscape perforated metal facade, that on top is apartment units.
So I have to say, we saw 3 of his buildings.
Yeah.
I didn't like any of them.
What? Really? You didn't like the mountain house? I thought it was pretty cool.
I thought that was like... I thought it was just... I thought it was trying too hard. I mean, I think, that's probably the best view of it. But I feel like all of his projects at that time are all doing the same thing. It's just stack, asymmetry, do a cool move, and that's it. Like, take a square and lift one corner. Here's my project. And it's like, okay, again, like, how many times can you do that? Then you turn around, like, it's very... Again, the experience as a pedestrian, I'm sure in the unit you get great views and it's nice to be up there, but the only cool thing I saw was that the elevator was more like a gondola, so as an incline, which I thought was cool, especially the concept is the mountain. Like, that's kind of a different experience going up to your apartment every day rather than like straight up. You're going at an angle. That's cool. But the whole walking around the building, walking behind the building, walking through the building to get from one street to the other, like, not pleasant. And then we saw this one, the pointy one.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure of the quality of that space. Yeah, it's cool. You see glass and like hallways and there's colors. Okay. What's there to see? Like cars and neon lights? Like, I mean, I don't know. What am I looking at? A bunch of railings? Like, I don't...
It's funny because a lot of this type of work was super popular when we were in school. Like, everybody was looking at this. Everybody was doing...
I think the section drawings look super cool, probably, right?
Everyone was doing diagrams and presentations like this and trying to emulate what he was doing. Yeah. And a lot of other offices were doing at that time as well.
But
and
I think... But I think it goes back to when you go from the concept to the execution.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the concept is there, the beautiful building section is there, but the human experience is not. And that's kind of like what makes the project real and successful, is that part. And I feel like it's just missing.
I think that some of these projects, there's a novelty component to it. There's a very clear one statement that's being made. That's a novelty. It's not even that novel if you look at the full history of architecture, which I don't think really matters. But like, it's novel. Like, oh, this idea of what we could do. He talks through it. The parking structure, then you tilt it, and then this, and the mountainscapes the mountain. Mountain mirrors the mountains of whatever, and then this cool thing, and it's novel, but it just feels like. I feel like that would be enough if the project were like a fifth of the scale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For something that is so massive, so much money, so many units, it's got to be more than that.
Just that. Yeah, no, I agree.
Just that.
I agree.
This is the same thing. It's novelty.
And then there is the pointy one. I don't know the name of it.
Whatever. We'll look. I mean,
it looks cool. It looks different. It's not sure the practicalities of these balconies. Like, we were often joking that, oh yeah, if you step on your balcony and you can like look down into your neighbor's bedroom or something. And
oh yeah, it's part of the fun.
Well, maybe that's what they're into. But yeah, it did not give me any emotions, really.
I would have been very curious to know back when all this was popping off.
But I think, again, back then it was probably a huge deal.
Yeah, it was. It's one of his landmark projects in his early days. But what I'd be curious to know is for architects who were practicing, like real architects doing, work, what they would have thought about these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of students at that time would have been dismissive of any criticism of this kind of stuff. But now I don't. I mean, then whatever. So this is the project that I saw on my own, which is the 8 House, which is one of his Big's most famous projects because he did this video. You've seen the video where he walks through his office, and it's like it was an amazing production, presentation. 1,000 out of 10. And this was like probably 20, I don't know how many years ago we did this presentation, and he's doing AR stuff where he's like using fingers and pointing and talking about the history, and the building's evolving in 3D live as he's moving and talking and orbiting around this thing. And it's just, to date, it is one of the best presentations of a building ever. And again, also, it should be noted that it's not to say other architects don't have as much thinking in their projects or more, is that they have not put in the time to convey it.
It's the packaging. It's
which maybe they should, right? Yeah. But also, fuck, it's hard enough already to just do the work. Anyway, so this is the project that I've known about forever, and to see it in person is something I didn't think I'd ever get to see it in person. First, I would say for folks who are in the same position of me, if you've studied this or seen it, this structure is fucking huge. It is giant. And the size of it in the program brief, not dictated by the architect perhaps, but in my view, it's too big.
Mm-hmm.
It's too big. This was the one where you can actually
done by big, so.
walk to the top. I don't know if you were supposed to, but I did. And I was like, okay, now I got to get back down this thing. And it's big. And I think the problem with this one is the scale, because it's either too big or it's actually not big enough. You know what I mean? Because it wants to generate community, but the scale is off. But at the same time, if it was like 5x the size, then you're talking about a true neighborhood. You know what I mean? And you'd have maybe commercial stuff and whatever in there. This is this weird state of, it just feels, and the thing too is, again, going to the execution and the aesthetics of stuff, which, all architects have their preferences, and maybe culturally, different cultures have their preferences, but it's all this, aluminum siding, and it just, in movies you have like spaceships where people live in pods and everyone's kind of, it's sad, everyone lives in a number.
And,
it's the same thing, right? And I'm like, conceptually, the idea of living on a ramp that connects everybody in this or that way, a figure 8, a squiggly line, a 2-figure, whatever, right? And you have a slope for a variety of program reasons and views and whatever, that's fine. But that doesn't get you very far in the execution of a building. That's just day one of concept design. And I do not know, again, maybe it's cultural, I do not know if it would be at all joyful or enjoyable or pleasant to live in the structure. It's just so repetitive and so huge. And because there is a vertical incline, you got to walk up, quite a bit to get to your unit, depending on where you're living. It's just, it feels more about the building than it does about community, which is the opposite of what I think he was trying to pitch. And I didn't have expectations high or low to see it, because I was by myself, just trying to get there because I want to get back to you guys. And I would just
it looks really big.
I was very uncomfortable the entire time being there. It just really felt
actually
odd.
That kind of like courtyard feeling also feels a bit strange. Feels kind of a
now again,
bit claustrophobic.
If you imagine it's the summer and people are partying and stuff, it's different. But that doesn't validate the architecture just because people happen to be having barbecues or whatever.
Now the nice thing is that it looks like they each have a little terrace, outdoor space.
Yeah, but you can kind of see from here, it's so repetitive.
Yeah.
It's the same, repeated 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So
it's too homogeneous.
Oh, I mean, great idea, but I don't. Yeah. Sorry, that doesn't work. I saw a Liebskin building from the outside. Decided to lean on the wall because it's at an angle.
That's what you do usually when you see angles.
That's fine. I'll talk quickly about the Black Diamond building. It is one of the structures... Well, actually, let me get your opinion of it. You didn't see it, but I'm curious to find if your critique or comments about it through the photographs align with what it felt like to be there from my view. So what are your thoughts?
If the picture photographs align with what I thought would be inside?
And what I felt when I was there. So just tell me what you think, and I'm just curious to see.
I mean, from the outside, yeah, sure. It's a dark, mysterious building or whatever with a glass, slice into it, fine. I actually wasn't imagining there would be waves in there, so that's a little bit of a surprise. But yeah, I mean, I knew it was a library because we had looked it up. If I did not know what it was, I probably would have said it's some sort of like
transit hub,
commercial building, office building, maybe even a mall. Like, it's not really, a monument, let's say, for me. Looking at the pictures inside, it kind of looks like a hodgepodge of stuff. So, for me, again, it's a building that maybe tried a little too hard on the interiors. I think the exterior looks pretty handsome, but the interior is a little too much stuff.
Yeah. No, that's basically it.
Yeah.
It was kind of like filled with a bunch of formal features and tectonic features.
Oh, we have a circle. We have to have wave. We have to have sky bridge. We have to, we have to have beams. We have to. It's a little bit like you wanted to show off a little too much.
Yeah.
Which is kind of strange because I think it goes against what a library building typically wants to be. The library building usually wants to be about the books and just kind of like hosting the books, and it's about the books and not about the building. And here it seems like the books are just there to like fill up the space, but that's it.
Well, that's an interesting way to think about a library, but I would agree with it's just a lot of stuff. It's like it's almost like the way I would describe it is
too much engineering. I don't know.
It's almost like a developer made a checklist of like cool shit. You're like, hey guys, guess what?
Yeah.
River curve stuff, right? Bridges, exposed structure, glass stuff, right? Yeah. Cool. And then big circle down to the basement. Cool. Escalator going through in the middle. Cool. Check. Awesome. And there's no
Maybe
tact.
It was designed as for another function and they turn it into a library. Like, I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, not my forte.
Not a lot of finesse going into this one. And then I think
there is the church that I was supposed to see that I didn't get to see because we tried to go.
Do you remember the name of the church?
Oh, it's like the Guten Tag or whatever.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's something with the Grundorf or something.
Maybe it's no, it doesn't.
The Gandalf. This thing.
So now you understand why when we got to the wrong church, I was wondering how this would fit into the two-story
You must have thought
building.
2/3 of this structure was underground.
I kept looking around because I was like, are we entering the maintenance building? Where is the church? Yeah, so we unfortunately showed up with the whole group to see the church that one day, and it was much closer than the other one, I have to say. There's a little bit of walk and buses to be taken, but we get there, we try to open all the doors and find out it's closed on Monday. And we're like, what church closes on Monday?
Yeah.
Like, what? So huge disappointment. You guys made it back, I think, the day after. I started getting sick, so I didn't get to see it. But that really seemed like a masterpiece of brickwork.
This is the type of thing where my description of the experience will not do the building justice, which is a high compliment, I think, of any kind of structure. Just talking about the outside, the whole thing is just brick. Just brick, it's outside and inside.
I don't know how to say it in Danish, but it's the Grundtvig.
Okay, right. It's just brick, and it's modern. It's a more recent structure. It's not a historical structure. And it's just brick. And I think this is a really good case study, an example of like how much you can do with a single material by just stacking bricks in different ways and creating depth, shadow, light, all of the amazing, the poetry of architecture in very simple ways. This is not complex compound curves that are making complex shapes, just stacked bricks and simple forms, really. And the power of that. The inside might be one of the most sublime spaces I've ever experienced. And I think what makes it sublime is, I mean, obviously it's all of it working together, right? But it's the purity of the material. It's just one brick that's like a light beige in color, just one brick that's repeated a gajillion times and put together in, again, very, very simple ways. And it's just
what looks simple, probably not easy to put together.
Yeah. But you know, it's not. There's not a lot of gymnastics happening.
Yeah.
It's not a Frank Gehry where like things are shit's flying diagonally and whatever. And I'm trying to find like a, and it's just that, and then some chandeliers and some natural light, and that's it. And it is it's a profound space. So definitely one of my top favorites now, for sure. Because of what it's doing and how successful it is. It's a real pleasure being there. And so two of us were there were architects and one was not an architect, but we were there for quite some time, just sitting and looking and just enjoying the space.
No, I got to visit it through FaceTime. That was exciting.
Yeah. And even what this is called, it's the pew? No, not the pew. The thing that the thing on the side, this thing.
I don't know how it's called in English.
Anyway,
all of the railings and
the railings, the small architecture of things where like the priest stands on off to the side, the little table at the front. I don't know what these things are called. The podium thing. They're pretty much all made of the same brick, and it's just, I don't know. It's cool. Really, really pleasant. Really good.
Well, this is a good place to end.
Really good and really honest, you know. And a lot of the stuff these days feels very dishonest, and this felt very. The one thing I do have to say about churches is how come the organ always feels like this kind of afterthought thing that was made by a carpenter and it was temporary? You know what I mean?
Well, so this church I think was built in like
1970s,
20 or 1940.
I think later than the 40s. I don't know, whatever, 1900s. It's not like
so it's not like, you know, the church was there for centuries and then decided to add an organ. So I don't know, it's a little weird. Probably because maybe that's what happens in churches. You just do it this way, but it is odd, right? Clear. Okay, we gotta wrap it up.
Okay, that's it for the architecture of Copenhagen.
That's it. Thank you very much, David. If you like what we do, please support the show, leave us a review, share the links to our podcast. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. We are on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, what else? Spotify. And our website, secondstudiopod.com, where all the episodes are. You can also call and leave us a voicemail or shoot a text message to our hotline, 213-222-6950. And that's it. And there is a lot more to come, so stay tuned.
I think you covered everything, right?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Talk to you. Bye.
Bye-bye.